with the president of Quest. We have Nathan Long here with us talking about a really great topic for the end of the year, which is Roth IRAs and Roth conversions. Now, before we get started, I do just have a couple of quick announcements for you guys. We will post the links to everything I'm about to tell you in the chat, so be sure to check that out. But we have some awesome events coming up for you guys. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Haley Gant. I work in our marketing department here at Quest, and I work with our team to help put on all of these events for you guys, as well as bringing in new educational content, new exciting events and promotions. And we've got a few things coming up for you. Again, we will post the links to these here in the chat. But we have a really awesome event coming up this Saturday at 10 a.m. It won't be at 12 p.m. like usual. It'll be at 10 a.m. Central Time. And this is a panel over forecasting economic trends for 2021. So basically anything that you need to know as a real estate investor moving into the new year. This event is going to be pretty great. We have Nathan moderating the panel, and then on the panel, we have Eddie Wilson from Think Realty, and then Richard Wilson from Family Office Club. So two really high quality speakers. We're excited to have them join us. Be sure to register for this event. The link is there in the chat for you. And we also have a really cute promotion going on for Coverdell Education Savings Accounts this month. If you open up a Coverdell for either your children, maybe your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, have a little Christmas package that we are sending all of the kids who get a Coverdell opened up for them this year. It has a really cute little questy booklet, kind of teaches your kids how to find, how to save for education, some financial terms, some fill in the dots, find the questy. It's super adorable. And then they'll also get a little gift package as well with some other little freebies. So Katie in our marketing department is online moderating this webinar today. She's going to put her contact information there in the chat. If you guys are interested in this, just reach out to us. You can also chat live with an IRA specialist directly through our website. We've got a lot of great resources for you guys. So those are the two things that I have for my quick announcements, Nathan. I'll go ahead and pass it off to you. If y'all have questions, just let us know.
Yeah, those Coverdell things are really cute. And people really don't understand the importance of having a Coverdell education account. I mean, it's one of the, accounts that really help teach your children about investing. And it's getting close to the end of the year. I really suggest everyone, if you don't have one, get the little coloring kit. But more importantly, get your children involved in learning to invest. Nothing other things. And a great example is right here on the screen, right? I've known Haley for a very long time because her father is a real estate investor and has been one of my clients for a very long time. And I know that that's how Haley learned how to real estate invest and do a lot of things like that. You can go ahead and share it there. Give me just a second, everyone. Everyone see my screen okay? We're good to go, Haley?
Yes, good to go.
Okay, guys. This is one of my favorite topics. We're talking about Roth IRAs, Roth conversions. Like she said, Katie's manning the chat box. So if you have questions as you go along, don't be afraid to ask. If something pops in your head, just boom, 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 put it in the chat box. Either Katie will answer it, or she'll unmute herself and ask me if she thinks it's a good question for the whole audience to hear and all those things like that. So hopefully it's a chance to try to be a little bit more interactive with you and be able to get this. Some of these concepts sometimes is going to fire off some questions as we go through the material. All right. Again, we don't give tax, legal, or investment advice. We don't endorse any products. Quest doesn't sell anything. Right? We charge fees whenever you do a transaction. That's how we make our money. Don't get anything off of any of the investments that are made. We're not allowed. We must maintain a complete neutral party. Here's the part that's important. Whenever you submit a bi-direction letter to Quest, if it is properly vested, it looks good, boom, we must process it. Take the time to do your own due diligence. In other words, understand the investment and understand what to do if it goes wrong each and every investment that you make. All right. Your self-directed custodian does not and cannot legally do that for you. So that's a very important little thing to talk about. Little basic information before I get into the Roth conversion part of it. I know you guys hear me say this stuff a lot, but these are important facts. I try to always get it out there, right? That we're not a self-directed IRA really isn't a type of IRA, right? There's all different types of IRAs. Self-direction just is an attempt to describe what we do. What we do is we just hold private assets inside of retirement accounts where most custodians are licensed securities agents and they hold publicly traded assets. As a matter of fact, they sell you those investments and get paid a commission when they do sell you those investments. We don't do that at all. We don't have any publicly traded type of things or anything available to you. When you move money over to Quest, right, you have to tell us where you want to send it and what you want to do with it, right? So you have to have that in there. Most of my clients maintain their relationship with their other custodian. In other words, they have an account with Charles Schwab or Fidelity or someone like that. They have an account with Quest. They can buy all their other stuff, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all of those type of things, they get those there. All the weird stuff, the stuff that we always talk about with Quest. And we can move that money back and forth as many times as we need to, as long as we're doing a IRA to IRA transfer. So you don't need to let unused cash just sit around at Quest, not getting anything. You move it back over to Fidelity as you get payments coming in and those things, right? Does that make sense? All right. There's a lot of reasons why people want one. One of the big ones, I think, is diversification. Allowing self-direction allows you to diversify into other assets. I know a lot of my clients are very, very thankful over this COVID year that they were properly diversified and did have other assets in there. Everything that we teach is all about tax savings, right? And it's always not the funnest topic to talk about, but if you're going to spend time learning wealth building, especially when you start talking generational wealth building, you've got to take time and learn the tax things. And Quest will help you with that, right? We'll help you with all the tax-free accounts and all that, but all of the tax training that you can get, try to sign up for it. I know it's not the fun stuff. It's not nearly as fun as learning how to take a dollar and turn it into 10 million, but learning how to keep it is an important skill, right? And also, a lot of people don't understand that often the things that we're investing in have a lot of social benefits. For example, I like to lend. What happens whenever I lend my money? I lend my money to, one of you guys. Buy a house, you're going to fix it up and flip it, right? I'm secured by real estate and getting above average interest rate. Great for me, yay. But what also happening? If you think about it, that person is taking a blight in our community. He's fixing it up. He's creating jobs in the city where I live, work, and play. He's taking an old house that's a mess and making it look nicer. So I think that often we forget about the social impact we have as an investor when we're doing self-direction, even unintentionally. Like I'm in it for the higher interest payments, right? But the result is a very good effect on our economy locally and otherwise. Sometimes if I'm like buying a mutual fund, I might be throwing a blanket across a lot of different companies, and sometimes might invest in things that might be not aligned with my ethical or my political situation. But I think the biggest thing with the self-directed IRA, or why it's so important, is that you can invest in the things that you know and understand. And if you know and understand real estate, that's what you should be doing. If it's oil and gas, that's what you should be doing. If it's, building real estate syndications, whatever it is, that's what it is you should invest in my opinion. And I think that works best. I like lending. That's what's worked well for me, basically because I don't like toilets and tenants very much. But, pick the strategy that works for you. There's all types of plans that can be self-directed. Often we have people get confused that only a Roth IRA can get self-directed, and that's not really true. Most of the accounts here at Quest are traditional IRAs. They are growing tax deferred, not tax-free, right? Roth IRAs, of course, grow tax-free, which is what we're here to talk about today. This is the class. Oh, what? We are watching it. That's the one we're on. So we also have employer plans that can be self-directed. And we spend a lot of time at the end of the year talking about the solo 401k. It's a specialty account that has to be set up by December 31st, all right, in order to make contributions to it. But we can make those contributions not all the way until October for this year because it's an employer plan. But if you've been thinking about, hey, I'm self-employed, I might want one of those solo 401ks instead of doing a SEP IRA this year, the time to do that is right now. You want to send an email either to Katie, and she'll get you set up with an appointment with Juan Deshawn or Derek, one of our 401k specialists that will help go through that with you. But it's one of those things you want to look at this time of year. But also, we can use specialty accounts in order to buy real estate and self-direct. And if you haven't done this, if you don't have a health savings account or haven't considered a covered education account, check out that education. That is super smart. I honestly think that some of the cornerstones of building wealth for especially the younger generation, the next generation that's coming up, is definitely you must have a Roth IRA. I think you should own a house, right? These are just the basics. And you should have a health savings account that you've learned to invest in. It's so powerful. You put the money in, you write it off your taxes. You take the money out, it comes out completely tax-free. It's just unheard of. And it builds value year after year. It's not one of those flexible spending accounts where you have to use it all up by December or something silly like that. Super important to have some money set aside for health. And that's such a flexible account because you can use it for expenses, not only for you, but your spouse, and anyone that's dependents that are on your tax return, even if they're not part of the insurance plan. And you can pick up years from receipts from previous years to get tax-free distributions in the past. So you might not have had that much money in the account in the past, but you had a big medical bill. You can go into the future and then just take that out later, tax-free and penalty-free. So cool stuff, good extra education, some things to consider and look about, right? And it's also really important to understand that you can combine all of those accounts. Often this time of year, we're talking about small accounts. They just recently talked about the covered L account. I think that if you have any minor children or grandchildren, you should explore having one of those with you. It was very, very beneficial with my son and teaching him about investing as he grew up. And we're talking about Roth IRAs. Sometimes Roth IRAs may have a small amount in them. But one of the really cool things that you can do is, even though those accounts may be disqualified to each other, in other words, they can't buy, sell, trade, or extend service together, we could partner them together. We could string a bunch of little accounts together to create one investment. And I do this all the time. You might get all your nieces and nephews and get them a covered L, and they all maybe only have a couple of grand in there a piece, or you have a health savings account that maybe has 5 or 6 grand in it or something like that, right? A Roth IRA with a small amount in them. You could partner those together and make one loan, buy one house, whatever. As the income comes back in, it'll get split according to those percentages of ownership. Man, this is a great way to grow small accounts. You piggytail them on top of your bigger accounts. And we've been doing this in our family for a long time. I've got Forrest, my cousin sits right next to me. He's an attorney, he shares my office with me, and he's smiling because we've been doing this for 25 years now, I guess. And he partners with me all the time with his IRAs, and we do loans and stuff like that. A lot of fun. There are restrictions on all these type of account, people restriction, transaction restrictions, and investment restrictions, right? The people restrictions are the important ones. That's the one that gets us. There are people who cannot do business with the IRA. They can't buy, sell, trade, extend services, or receive a benefit either directly or indirectly. All right. Who are those people? That's you. That's right. It's the account holder. Your IRAs and retirement accounts and HSAs, all those are for a specific purpose, right? If it's a Roth account, then it's for when you retire. So they want you to force you to use that for your retirement and not receive any benefit now. If your IRA buys a house, you can't go live in it, right? It's got to be for the purpose of an investment, and the rent's got to come back to the IRA. You get no benefit from the investments your IRA makes. Your benefit is in the future when you have a great big Roth IRA, right? And you take that money out tax-free in order to get it. Everyone got that? In addition to you, there's other people who are equally disqualified, which includes you, spouse, lineal ascendants and descendants, their spouses, and companies any of those people own, control, manage, or considered highly compensated buy. If you have any questions about that, just spark Katie or, get on the line with one of my IRA specialists, and they'll help you work through who could be disqualified to your IRA and who wouldn't be. Thanks. Again, there are transaction restrictions, but that's just the things that the people can't do, which is buy, sell, trade, right? Loan, right? Or extend service or get a benefit either directly or indirectly. Forrest, would you shut this blind for me? I'm sorry, I got like a sun hit me in the eyes. There. There are investment restrictions. They usually don't this one, Forrest. They usually don't affect us. Collectibles and works of art, it just doesn't get us most of the time. Thank you. All right. Well, what could you invest in with a self-directed IRA? Well, at Quest, you could really invest in anything you can take title to. You'd be shocked at some of the unusual investments we've seen over the years. But at Quest, we break it up into different categories, or we have different departments. We have a real estate department. This is if I'm taking direct title to real estate. We have a notes department. This is if I'm lending money of any type of notes, right? And we have what we call the private entities department. This is basically everything else, but that's if I'm buying into a trust or a joint venture or a limited partnership, something like that. And it's helpful to have the different departments because then the staff is going to be very familiar with your type of investments. They're not trying to do everything. They're just focused in on this, and they'll know how it works and runs. So that was kind of just my introduction there, kind of warming up. If you have any questions, like I said, just hit them on the chat box. Katie will answer them for you. Now we're going to talk about what I want to talk about, which is the Roth IRA. I mean, there really is two types of money out there, traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, and different accounts go. So it's either growing tax deferred, where we'll pay the tax when we take the money out, or it grows tax free, all right, with like the Roth IRA. And if I ask you a question, which one of these accounts is more important, right? The Roth IRA. Everyone in the world is going to say, man, the Roth IRA is more important than the traditional IRA. I don't go, why? Because, man, look at it. It grows completely tax-free. Every wealth building guru I've ever heard speak in the United States all mention the Roth IRA. Why? Because if you put a little bit of money into it, make it worth a whole bunch of money, it grows completely tax-free. But if you're a real estate investor, right, or an average person, or things, I really feel the more important bucket of money is the traditional IRA. And why do you think that is, right? Well, because that's where everyone's money is, which leads us to this whole basis of this conversation. See, most people have gone to work, and they found out they can get some free money, put some money into an account, right, at work, and their employer will match it. They get a tax deduction on the money that goes in. The employer gets a tax deduction on the amount that they put in. Woohoo, free money. Over a period of years, builds into a big bucket of money, right? The problem with it is the bucket's really not as big as you think it is, right? Because we haven't paid tax on that. And so anytime we go to take some of that money out, we have to pay tax on it, or it adds to our modified adjusted growth income in the year in which we do that. So therein lies the problem. And if I'm in a high tax bracket, it could end up paying a lot of tax. Also, if I'm taking a little bit of money and making it worth a whole bunch of money, now I'm having to pay tax on the whole bunch of money. So the concept here to understand is that all the conversations usually start with the traditional IRA. If you're using someone else's money, most likely they will not do what we're talking about today, which is taking that money and converting it to a Roth IRA, paying those taxes so that we can have tax-free growth forever. Why do we want a Roth IRA? Let's talk about it. And why don't very many people have the ones with very much money in it? One of the big reasons is the income or the contributions that we can put into a Roth IRA are pretty small, and they always have been. They're up to $6,000 this year. You get an extra grand if you're an older feller like myself, right? but it's subject to income limitations. So if I make too much money, what happens is I'm not allowed to contribute to a Roth IRA. In 2010, they removed the rule about converting from a Roth IRA. There is no income limit on that anymore, which we'll talk a little bit about, right? So, but they did not remove the income limit for making a contribution to a Roth IRA. So that still exists, but we'll learn that anybody can have a Roth IRA. Why? So some things to think about. You can fund your Roth IRA all the way up to your tax filing deadline, but not to include extensions, right? If you're married and your spouse doesn't have any what we call qualified income, income that would qualify to make a contribution into a retirement account, but you do, you can make a contribution to both of your accounts just based off of your income. All right. And of course, qualified distributions from Roth IRAs are tax-free forever. What's important to understand is the two major qualifications most of the time to get a tax-free distribution are you have to be above the age of 59 1/2, and this is important, you have to have had a Roth IRA for 5 tax years. Everybody should, if you don't have a Roth IRA, you should open one today and put just a small amount of money into it even before the end of the year. Even if you just make a $50 contribution to it, it will start that 5-year clock and actually back it up to January of this year. So it's like you burn off one of the years. You only got, if you do it right now and make a contribution for 2020, you'll only have 4 years before you can take the tax-free contributions out of your Roth IRA. Also, Roth IRAs have no required minimum distributions, so you don't have to take the money out when we reach the age of 72. Other retirement accounts, as you reach that age, they start to have you force you to take it out, and you take a little bit more each year until eventually it's depleted. All right. And because there's no required minimum distribution, and because we have an account that's tax-free, we often will use Roth IRAs to pass wealth on. So when you die, a Roth IRA can become a beneficial Roth IRA, right? If you give it to your spouse, she can keep it for the rest of her life and continue to grow tax-free, or their life. But if you give it to your children or grandchildren, it will still grow tax-free even after the new rule changes for 10 additional years. So once I pay the tax on and move it from a traditional and a Roth, how long will it grow tax-free? The answer is the rest of your life, followed by if your spouse is still alive after you died, the rest of her life or their life. And then if you inherit it to your children, then it'd be at least an additional 10 years. So that's some of the things that make it really important. Again, why do a lot of people don't have Roth IRA? This is what happens. Remember I told you, work real hard. Let's look at just an average person, right? Average Joe here, right? He's worked for 20 years at a factory or something like that. I don't know. I'm just making stories up. And he's got this big old bucket of money, that he saved, and he's not a real estate investor, right? Most people aren't. He's done pretty good, okay? And he's heard about Roth IRAs. Goes in and talks to his financial planner and says, "Ooh, financial planner, I think they'd be really good to have a Roth IRA." And they go, "Wait a second, Joe, we got a little bit of a problem we need to talk about." You see, Joe, right now, you took a long time to save up this big bucket of money. And because you're at retirement age or close to retirement age, what's going to happen is if we convert your retirement account from a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA, we're going to add that to your modified adjusted growth income. If he's still working in any way or anything else, then, so he already has income, then we add $200,000 or $300,000 of income on top of it. what happens? You're going to pay a very high tax rate for the cost of that conversion, because we want to keep you safe, Joe, right? We want to keep you safe because you can't re-earn that money. You're too old. It took you a long time to come up with this. We want to keep you in very safe investments. Well, at a normal bank, what are safe investments, right? CDs, money market funds, bonds. Those have very low return. If Joe does a Roth conversion, pays a whole bunch of tax, it could take a very, very long time for him to make that money back. Some of the calculations I've done, it's like 20 years right now based off the rates. So that doesn't make too much sense. So most of the time, Joe gets talked out of doing a conversion, right? But great news, ladies and gentlemen, we are not average. We're real estate investors, real estate professionals. And because of the way we're investing these monies, it greatly changes the analysis used as to whether or not you would do one. So as we do investments that pay more or have a potential to have a greater return, we have to study the conversion or analyze it differently. We cannot use the same analysis that they're using for average Joe, because we're not average. All right. So is a Roth conversion right for you? That's what we're talking about. Or what are the things you want to consider if you're going to do a Roth conversion? Everybody's situation is different. So, and in each of those different circumstances, anyone that just says, yep, you should do a Roth conversion, hands down, unless they're your financial planner, tax advisor, something like that, man, I'd be careful listening to them. Take a little bit of time and make sure that you understand yourself. And obviously that's what you're doing. You guys are watching this webinar, right? So things to consider. One of the big things you want to consider when you're doing a Roth conversion, and that's why we talk about Roth conversions this time of year, is because the biggest times a year you want to do a Roth conversion is either in December or January. All right. And why? Well, you want to look at your tax rates, right? Whenever I do a conversion and take some of that traditional money and turn it into a Roth money, I'm going to add to my income. If I've had a rough year in 2020, which a lot of you have, right? Maybe you had some business losses, or just maybe didn't make very much money, or maybe you're, work furloughed for half the year or something like that. This might be a great opportunity to convert some of that money from traditional and Roth, because we would pay less tax because we're in a lower tax bracket. Other people like to wait till January. Well, why would you wait till January? Well, if I do a conversion in January, I've got a whole year and up till April, basically 16 months before I have to pay that tax. So often I can invest it and have that investment earn a lot of money prior to even having to pay the tax. So we look at it and we spend a lot of time on phone with our clients at the end of the year studying Roth conversions. And if anything during this thing clicks and you say, yeah, I need that, please don't hesitate. Pick up the phone and talk to an IRA specialist. It's free. It's free if you're not a client. If you're a client with another company and you cannot get these questions answered, I don't care. Just pick up the phone, talk and ask for an IRA specialist. We'll go over it step by step with you gladly, right? Educated clients are our best clients. And the more time we spend with free education, the better off we all are. So that's it. Again, look at what years you might be a lower or higher tax bracket. Think about things like, for example, if I'm retiring next year, I might not want to do a big conversion this year that I have a lot of income on those things. Here's one that I get all the time. I have people do these huge analyses about, Roth, I'm going to take, $300,000, I'm going to convert it, and I'm going to, no, that's great. What happens when you convert is it does add to your modified adjusted income. In other words, you have to pay taxes on it. The tax doesn't come from the Roth IRA. Where does the tax come from, right? It comes out of HIP National, right out of the wallet. So if you don't have the money to pay for those taxes, you that's one of the big considerations that you want to throw in there. I know I did some conversions on, at the beginning of the year and wasn't sure if I was going to have the money but it kind of forced me into having it, but it's something to think about. Like, how much can I afford to pay in extra taxes, and then reverse engineer as to how much I could maybe afford to convert then. There's other considerations. Whenever we're trying to do an analyst on whether we should do a Roth conversion, so we try to come up with how much does it cost to do that conversion, right? Well, if I'm doing that in January, I certainly don't know what my marginal tax rate is. I haven't gotten there. I haven't made my money this year. So I'm going to have to guess. I'm going to have to make an estimate. So you want to guess that, but you also want to think about other things. Does it put you in a different tax bracket? Is it going to change your things? Is it going to affect any Social Security or Medicare or anything like that? Yeah, and calculate the total cost, or what you think that it's going to cost you, so you can do a proper analogy about whether you should do this conversion. Here's another one. Do you want to leave payments? You don't want to leave money to your heirs, right? Tax-free, or do you not? There's no right answer. Maybe you don't have any children, or maybe you could be like my mom. I have tried to convince her for years to do a Roth conversion, and she's got very progressive investments in there. They're paying really well. It makes sense to do a Roth conversion. She said, "Why? I'm not going to do that." And I go, "Why not, Mom?" She's like, all my boys make good money, and I'm not really going to do anything with that account. When I die, that's just going to go to you. And why the heck would I pay your taxes for you? Can't argue with her. Another kind of cute or funny story is I had a staunchy, kind of grumpy doctor. He was very conservative in his political views. And he had two sons. One was also very conservative political views, but the other one, darn Democrat. So he made had two different accounts. One account went to his one son. He made that a Roth IRA. The other account, he made a traditional IRA. He says that boy likes to pay taxes, so he can pay them. And what a mess. Anyway, I'm just laughing. But a lot of people, maybe you don't have heirs, and it doesn't make sense, right? If I'm 80 years old and don't have any kids, I might not make sense to do a Roth conversion, even if it does provide me tax-free income. Though I will argue, most of the time people come to me and say, I'm too old to do a Roth conversion. I can very easily show them that they're most likely wrong, right? When I start to have a conversation about what their needs are, why they're trying to build wealth, what they're doing with their investments, most of the time it makes sense for people to have Roth IRAs. It's probably one of the greatest gifts that a senator has ever given to you was when Senator Roth designed the Roth IRA. But I think the most important thing to think about on whether I should do a Roth conversion is, what do you project to make? Right? Take it to its most simple form. If I'm going to take $1 and I'm going to buy a stock, and tomorrow I think it's going to be worth 10 million, right? I would, even at the very highest tax rate, convert my dollar and pay tax on $1 so I didn't have to pay tax on 10 million. It's very easy to analysis like that. But Nathan, I'm not doing that. That's right. Your investments are all different and function in different ways, right? And that should help you think. Typically, it's like this. Get your idea how much you're going to get in return. Well, often I'm hard money lender. I can just take my interest rate and look at it. Or if I have a rental property, I got a rent in there. I look how many months the rents are, whatever it is. Take a look at what you think, how long it will take to get it back. So again, often for me, I might get it back in 2 or 3 years before I get enough money to pay, because I'm going to pay at a pretty high tax rate, even though my returns are getting pretty good returns. Right? Look at it. if you don't need the money before the time that recovers, you're probably good to go ahead and do a conversion because it will continue to grow tax-free. Remember, for the rest of your life, the life of your significant other, your spouse, and then 10 more years to your children, right? And you got to think about it. Like, do I want to go through that pain of paying those taxes now? I know in one of the years that I did Roth conversions, and I didn't do all my conversions in 1 year. I did it over several years. It was really, really painful. Well, one of the things I did, I'll tell you, and I wasn't making as much money as I do now. Quest was a lot smaller. And one of the things that I did is I just reduced how much money I was putting into my 401k payment. Because to me, it was the same thing. I needed the money to pay the taxes, right? A Roth IRA worth $1 million and a traditional IRA worth $1 million. The Roth IRA is worth more. Does everyone get that? By paying those taxes, it was like I was making extra contributions into my account. And sometimes that can be a very large contribution if you think of it that way. So, do that analysis, see if it makes sense to you as you go through, as you do things, right? Again, I know a lot of people think that if you make too much money, you can't do a Roth conversion. That is old. They have recently changed that and removed the income limits, which is really cool because a lot of people are in an income bracket that can't do it. How do you have a Roth IRA anyway? Well, you do a conversion. See, you can make a contribution every year to a traditional IRA for that same $6,000 or $7,000 if you're over the age of 50, right? But it may not be tax deductible. It's called what we would call basis. So you can put it in a traditional account. We didn't get a tax deduction. So guess what? If I immediately converted that over to a Roth account, do I have to pay tax on it? No, because I never got the tax deduction. So you just simply put it in a traditional IRA and we immediately move it over to a Roth IRA. Everybody in America can have a Roth IRA right now. So there it is. As long as you've had some type of qualified income, everybody can have one, right? That's the slide that went with what I was talking about. Let's look at some people that did this. Okay, these are real stories. I had a client that converted $12,000 at the end of February. Okay. This is important to pay attention to the dates, the time of year that he did it. All right. He was calculating that the tax that he would probably owe would be about $3,300 based off of his marginal tax rate or what he expected to earn that year. He purchased a mobile home. This wasn't a box. It was actually on a piece of land. So it was a mobile home on a piece of land. He was able to buy it for just under the $12,000. Right. He paid cash for it. He was able to turn around and sell it just a couple of months later for a $25,000 cash sale. Plus, he carried back a note for a few months that paid off a few months later for $5,000. So he sold it for $30,000. All right, making a total profit on the deal of $18,000. Now think about it. Right, would you pay $3,000 in tax in order to have now an account that has $30,000 of tax-free money that can grow tax-free for the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Right? If you could do this deal once, you could probably find another deal again. Again, it was a sweet deal. He knew when he was buying this mobile home that he was getting a deal on it. You get what I'm saying? And he knew he'd probably be able to sell it. So instead of doing the deal outside of his accounts, he decided to do a small conversion of just the $12,000, just what he needed to do the deal, right? Because the magic of a Roth IRA isn't converting. The magic is the investing. It is the growth. So we're always paying attention to our deal. Remember what I was saying about that. How about this? There used to be a wonderful feature to Roth conversions. And notice I said used to be. It used to be that if I did a conversion in January and I got all the way to the end of the year, matter of fact, I could go to tax filing deadlines plus extensions, October the following year, and I decided I didn't want to do the conversion, I could go, nah, I didn't mean to do that. Let's just recharacterize it, or basically it just makes the conversion go away and I didn't pay my taxes. So that was really cool because I invested in something in January. If it did really well, what would you do? You'd pay your taxes on it and go on. If it didn't do quite what you thought, well, you could act like you didn't convert it, recharacterize it back, and try again on another investment in a future year. They removed that. All right. And they strongly removed it. In other words, what happens now is if you do a conversion, I finish the paperwork, you're going to pay that tax. It's just done. There is no undoing a conversion. So you want to make sure that you're going through and thinking about all these things I'm telling you to think about prior to doing one. And I highly encourage you to actually sit down with an IRA specialist like Katie or any of the other ones that we have here on the things. Katie, is there any questions that I need to answer at this time? Or are you kind of getting them all?
I've gotten the few that have come through, but if anyone has any more, feel free to submit them now. I can ask Nathan them.
The voice of Katie. All right, I'll keep going.
Hi.
Can I do a partial conversion? Yes. As a matter of fact, I encourage this, right? You don't want to just take your whole bucket of money most of the time and dump it over. There are times that I'm doing it. I just talked to a guy just before this. He's converting $2.5 million. I mean, he's going to pay a ton of tax on it, and he's really old. And I tried to talk to him about it, and he's like, I worked it out with my financial guy. This makes sense to him. So he knew what he was doing. But you know, for average people, what I'd say is go back and look at the investment. Man, if just like the guy that invested the $12,000, he didn't convert all of his things. He just converted a little bit of it, just enough to do the investment and save the rest of it for if another good investment comes along. And over a period of years, you can do it. Also, you might convert a little bit each year, right? Remember my partnering example. I could take my traditional IRA and my Roth IRA and partner them together on an investment, right? So if I did that, I have the money either way. I can convert like a $100,000 investment. I can put $20,000 in my Roth IRA and have the $80,000 in there. Maybe the next year I convert another 20 or something like that. That allows me to spread out that taxation over a period of years instead of piling it all up in 1 year. Does that make sense? So that you have to have what we call a hard fair market value. You see, at Quest, we have to do, and it's very, very important that we do this, what we call fair market values, right? All custodians have to do it. It's just much more onerous when you're talking self-direction than you are a publicly traded asset. So at the end of the year, what your account is worth December 31st, we have to report that to the IRS. If again, a stock or something or a mutual fund, I just look at what it said when we closed the bell, December 31st, that's what it's worth. But what's a discounted note worth? What's a joint venture worth at that any particular moment in time or whatever? So at Quest, we've made it so that it's pretty easy to do your fair market values, though we do absolutely need them. You basically, if you got a piece of real estate, you can just send us a statement as to what the value is or what you believe the value is, and a little bit of documentation to back it up. For example, if it's real estate, you can send a property tax record, just a little something. If it's a discounted note, I bought it for 60% discount and I got 11 payments last year. It's probably still worth about 60%. Attach an amortization schedule. If it's just a note where it's face value, you don't need anything. The note itself serves. Most people can get through their what we call soft fair market values in a few minutes at the end of the year. If you've gotten that call from us, you've seen the email, pick up the phone, talk to someone. They can walk you through how to do it in just a couple minutes. If you don't do it, we'll try to get the value for you. In other words, look up the tax rolls or something and charge you $50. But save $50. I mean, I love to have it, but just do them. But if we're doing a Roth conversion of a hard asset, then we need what's called a hard appraisal or a hard fair market value. In other words, it can't be willy-nilly. We have to actually have a third party tell us what that asset's worth. So if it's real estate, it has to be a full appraisal. It can't be like a broker's opinion or anything like that. You have to get an appraisal on the property. If it's a note and it's face value, you could use the face value of the note, but often notes are discounted, right? You may need to have a note appraiser. If it's a syndication, like a real estate syndication, you might need to get a letter from the value from the managing member of the syndicator. That becomes a little bit more complicated as we do those things. So it has to be a pretty solid value. You can't just do it. So if you had just bought the property, like I just bought it and I'm going to sell it, and it's like, when I say just bought it, like a couple of weeks, then yeah, maybe sometimes you can use that as the value. But anytime after that, no, you're going to have to pay for the appraisal. So you gotta pay attention to it. Again, you need to add that cost into the cost of the conversion as you're doing the calculation if you do have to do an appraisal. And one other important point, that appraisal would be an expense to the IRA and not like you. So unlike the taxes that you pay, you're going to pay tax on the big money tree that you're going to grow it into. And for most of you, the answer should be, I want to pay tax on the little acorn, right? Because everybody's goal should be a tax-free pile of gold for their retirement, each and every one of you, and also to pass on wealth to your heirs. All right, I got a special running. Here it goes. For right now, if you'll email Katie and you want a Roth IRA, I said everybody should get a Roth IRA. I will not charge anybody flash sale for opening a Roth IRA, and I'm going to throw in Coverdell education accounts because Haley mentioned the cute little coloring books. They really are cute, by the way. On Coverdell's, we'll do those for free. Now, if you're a client, you can always get an account for an additional Roth IRA free. We'll also do Roth conversions for free right now. So if you open an account and we have to move money over from a traditional IRA and then we're going to convert it over to a Roth IRA, you wouldn't pay for the account opening for the traditional IRA. You wouldn't pay for the account opening a Roth IRA. But all you have to do to lock in that deal is you just got to send a quick email to Katie and say Roth Rush, and then she'll get someone to contact you, one of our IRA specialists. I mean, Katie is an IRA specialist, but she works in marketing, but she's been here a long time, very, very, very knowledgeable IRA specialist. But she'll get one of them to locate you and have a very personal discussion one-on-one with you about Roth IRAs, right? To make sure that this makes sense for you. But no matter what, everybody should have a Roth IRA, even if it's got a little bit of money in it, even if you don't know how to use it yet. You want to burn off that 5-year clock and wait for the opportunities. If you're listening to this, these opportunities are going to come like crazy as the economy starts to open back up. So highly encourage you to take advantage of the free account opening for right now. And everybody should try to get a Roth IRA before the end of this month. So if you don't have one. And here's the other thing. If you have a child who started working at McDonald's or something, they're 16, that's qualified income. Open them a Roth IRA. I did this with my son, man. A lot of you know him. My son's a certified IRA specialist. He works here. He's pretty smart. He knows a lot about investments. Man, you should have seen that kid when he was 18. He didn't know too much about investments and wasn't that smart. And surprisingly enough, he didn't want to listen to his dad. Can you imagine that? Like when I talked, it sounded like wah, 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 wah. Investment, wah, 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 right? So what did I do? Soon as he got income, I said, son, I'm going to put $5,000 in an account for you. That was the contribution limits then. And he's like, cool, Dad. Yeah, but it's this account that, you can't use until you're over the age of 59 and a half. It'll grow tax-free, and I'm going to put a power of attorney on it, so I'm going to control all the investments. Oh, man. You mean I don't get money now? No. And then I would do that. And what I'd do is I would take his little Roth IRA and I'd partner along with mine. And I'd do these loans and buy rental properties and all the things that we talk about. And he would get the, now, I couldn't do disproportionate distributions. In other words, he only owned 5% of that loan or whatever. When the payments come, he'd only get 5%. And it's really easy to do at Quest because if you have a bunch of IRAs, we'll just split those payments right up to the percentage of ownership, right? But year after year, he got to watch my investments. I'd give him a little statement, show him what we did, taught him things, I'd send it to him. First few years, he really didn't care. But somewhere around, I think it was around age 23, 24, this is when you really start to work, right? He's like, wow, okay, I'm working really hard for this money, but this money over here has been growing completely tax-free. And I've encouraged him as he go along to add additional amounts to it with his things. And I'm telling you, that's how I taught my son about investments. And I mentioned that because Haley learned the same way. Her dad did the exact same investments inside her IRA, and so does my son. And these are, I don't know how old you are, Haley, but you're pretty young. My son's in as low as 30, and what a great gift you can give to your children is a Roth IRA. All right, Katie, I'm done rambling. What else do you have for me? Any announcements? You want things? You have some questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions here. Katie's actually gotten a lot of them answered, but some of the ones she answered I do think would be good to kind of discuss out loud.
Okay.
One of the first ones that we got, which I think is a good question, is, are there any tax advantages of moving funds from a traditional IRA into a 401k and then converting it to a Roth? What sort of feedback do you have on that?
Yes, there could be. So that's a pretty complicated question. Most of the time, I would not encourage you to take an IRA and move it back into an employer plan. Why? Because your employer plans are at work, right? And you have limited choices. When it's an IRA, it opens you up to all your choices on that. And IRAs are pretty well protected, so anytime you can keep it as an IRA, you want to. There is an exception to that. I have what we were talking about earlier in the thing, a solo 401k. I am self-employed. I have no common law employees, and I make contributions to my own employer plan solo 401k, which they recently allowed us to now have a Roth component, so my contributions can be made in a Roth fashion, right? I can make that Roth contribution to it, but I can also do conversions inside the 401k. So what's the question that they're asking is, should I do my conversion outside the 401k or inside the 401k? So important things to understand. Once it's a Roth IRA, it can never be anything else besides a distribution, or it can become a beneficial Roth IRA. In other words, once I do that conversion, I can never move it into a 401k plan. Why would I want it in a 401k plan outside of a 401k plan? Well, that goes to your investments and what you're doing. If what I am doing as one of my investment strategies is I'm buying debt leverage property that has a non-recourse loan on it, right? And I'm hanging on to that property for more than a year, and that's the investment strategy I'm using, well, I can avoid a very heavy tax called unrelated business income tax by doing it into that account. So that's probably a good question, and probably one that you want to have a discussion with your IRA specialist to make sure that you understand it. One little caveat here, guys. A lot of you guys have now got 401k plans, just like we do at Quest, that does have a Roth component. So you're making these Roth contributions, and they can be pretty large every year at your employer. So you go, wow, I'm good to go. I don't need a Roth IRA. Absolutely wrong. This is why. What does it take to get tax-free distributions from your Roth IRA? You have to have had one for 5 tax years and be above the age of 59 and a half. Is a Roth 401k a Roth IRA? The answer is no. It doesn't start the 5-year clock, right? It's got its own clock inside of it, but as soon as you've had separation of service, I've retired, that will be forced into a traditional IRA, and your Roth funds will be forced into a Roth IRA. And guess what, guys? If you haven't been running a Roth IRA outside of your 401k in tandem, you've got 5 years to wait. You see the problem? Everybody needs to have a Roth IRA. Sorry, I was rambling there again, Haley.
No, it's perfect. It's all great information. So I like to ask these questions out loud, even though we might have typed the answers. Um, this is a good question from Rob. Rob wants to know, say if I have a 401k or maybe a 457b, can I convert this to a
Roth IRA? We don't recommend doing that. What we like to see you do is move it to a traditional IRA, and then we'll convert it here from traditional to a Roth. The problem with it is in these mid-air conversions, things get confused because we're dealing with another 401k provider. And if anything gets messed up, it's really hard to get them to go fix it. You get what I'm saying? But if we do it all inside of Quest, if something's wrong or something happened, it's really easy for us to take it apart and put it back together. So that's why we don't charge for doing that too when you have to do that, especially today, because conversions are free.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's something that as an IRA specialist, we'll walk you through it step by step. It's just one extra step, but it makes the reporting process a lot cleaner.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
One last
I want to
question
know,
here.
is your answers and my answers the same?
Yes. Yeah. At least that's what I do. Mid-air conversions, I never recommend for people because two different custodians have done two different parts of that reporting. So,
right.
You
got one reporting this one, and then God forbid if something gets reported wrong or something like that. And it always seems to happen when you try to do it. And it really doesn't save any time. We can do a conversion in minutes here.
Yeah.
Just like literally pushing a button. Anything else?
Yes, let's do one more question because this is a good one. I'm not sure if we've covered this. What happens if you make a contribution to your Roth IRA in January, but then you find out by the end of the year, you've actually made too much money and you don't qualify? What happens?
Oh, that's no big deal. Depends on when you find out. First of all, contributions can always be removed from Roth IRAs, tax-free and penalty-free at any age, at any time. So you just have to go take it out. Okay. One of the things that you could do, and if it's after the tax filing deadline, what's going to happen is you can correct it, but you'll have to pay a 5% penalty. And here's something I've seen someone do that was pretty tricky and pretty cool. They pretty much knew they were going to make too much money, but in the beginning of the year, they made a contribution to their Roth IRA. Came around, they invested it. This is before we could do conversions, by the way, for people that had too much money. So they would invest it, and the investment would make a lot of money, whatever it was. When I came back around and I had to convert it, what did I have to do? I only had to take out what? My contribution. Ever follow that? All the gains that I made on that deal stayed in there and the Roth IRA continued. So things to think about. With the conversion rules the way they are, we don't have to get quite so creative these days, but that's something we used to have to do in the past. So.
Awesome. Well, that's about the last of our questions. I did just plug Katie's contact information there in the chat one more time. Guys, be sure if you don't want to pay the account opening fee for a Roth IRA or a Coverdell Education Savings account, reach out to Katie, send her the promo code ROTHRUSH, and we'll get it assigned out. We'll get you called today and have an IRA specialist walk you through everything.
Haley, tell them where they can, all the different ways they can reach an IRA specialist, B, all the different ways they can find this other education that we're talking about throughout this slide.
Yes. So to contact an IRA specialist, there's a couple of ways to get a hold of us. One, email Katie, or you can email us directly at iraspecialists@questtrust.com. That's what you see here on the screen. But we do also have a really nice chat feature directly through our website, just questtrust.com. You can actually chat live with an IRA specialist. We also save the recordings from all of these classes on our YouTube page. The Quest YouTube is a growing resource. Every single week, we post a lot of videos. We archive all of our recent classes on there. So that's a great resource as well. Or you can watch them on Facebook or just visit our website. We've got a lot of info there. If you can't find what you're looking for, open up the chat box, chat live with us, and we can send you those direct links for what you might be looking for.
Thank you, Haley. Appreciate you. You guys have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a great day. See you in the next webinar.